Okay, I start. Okay. Uh, Good morning to everyone who is joining us today. Welcome to all students. Good afternoon. I'm so sorry. Good afternoon to everyone who is joining us today. Welcome to all school students, teacher, parents for all around Malaysia. Not forgetting University Malaysia Sabah student and staff present in this webinar session. Thank you, and we meet again for today's session of STEM Speaker Series. STEM Speaker Series is a collaboration between Science University Malaysia Sabah and my STEM Ambassador University Malaysia Sabah. My name is Nur Azira binti Ghazali. I am from Science UMS as a marketing officer, will be in charge as a moderator for this session. For those who join us for the first time, this STEM speaker series is a co-joint effort with Faculty of Food Science and Nutrition University Malaysia Sabah. This program is fully supported by the Sabah Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, aimed to deliver unique and interesting STEM topic designed by subject matter experts to increase the interest of school students, increase the of school student, teacher and committee alike to venture in the field of STEM. For any question from the audience, please feel free to drop your question of the both chat at the right side of YouTube live session. Please be informed that for today's session, e-certificate will be given to the school student and University Malaysia Sabah student. Therefore, I would like everyone to stay tuned with us to fill the form given through link that will be shared at the end of the session. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker with us today is a distinguished academician from the Faculty of Food Science and Nutrition, Dr. Sylvester Mantihal. He is interested in food product development using 3D food printing technology. He has been involved in 3D printing related seminar and exhibition as an exhibitor in academic seminar and representing the University of Queensland as 3D food printing demonstration to educate and spread the awareness of the novel technology and broadcast in Channel 10 Australia. He has received his PhD in 2019 from University of Queensland, Australia. His current work involves the investigation of local consumer perception of 3D printing technology, and he has published several journal articles in the related field of 3D food printing and was the member of Australian Institute of Food Science and Technology. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Sylvester with his topic entitled Current Update in 3D Food Printing, What's New? Doctor, please be invited.
All right, thank you so much for the warm welcome from the moderator. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing so far? Before we start, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Sylvester, an academic from the Faculty of Food Science and Nutrition in University Malaysia Sabah. And I think today's topic is quite really interesting to those that really are eager and want to know about the new technology, especially in food production, especially 3D food printing. Now, since this is like a live interview, so I will conduct this session bilingual, which is some part will be in English and some part will be in Bahasa, so that maybe you guys can understand more if I deliver in Bahasa, or if you guys need further clarification about the things that I will deliver later, or you guys want to know more about certain topics, please do chat in the live stream on the left hand side, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so at the end of the session, maybe the moderator will help you to read, and perhaps I will enlighten you guys more about the topic. All right. So shall we start? Okay. Hold on. Let me share my slide first. Okay. Hopefully this is visible to everyone. All right. So today's topic, current update in food printing, 3D food printing, what's new? So I believe I was invited last year, if I'm not mistaken, to deliver a similar topic to this about 3D food printing. But today's I would like to um, provide some maybe new technology or new perhaps new materials or new method in 3D food printing that is now available, especially in the markets perhaps or um, in new studies recently in 2022. Okay. Before we start, this is the outline for today's session. We'll start with introduction, and then I will introduce about the type of material for 3D printing. Perhaps now, um, most scientists now go for 4D printing, similar to 3D printing, but much more advanced. Okay, 3D printing parameters. What is the parameters that we really need to look into when we want to print? Dari segi suhu, setting, dan juga modifikasi bahan. Okay, 3D printing technology that is available, especially in food, that is applicable in food. Type of printable material that is edible, and the impact of 3D food printing to our food industry. Perhaps if our industry really keen to look into this technology and perhaps want to apply that in their business, that would be great as well. The current status and prospect, and then the conclusion. Okay, now I just want to throw something to the audience here. If you guys have heard about 3D food printing before, if you guys can comment that in the chat box. Pernah atau yes, I have heard about this before. Please comment there. Okay. To those that have heard about this technology, congratulations because you guys are in, what should I say this, up to date, I would say, about the current development in technologies. And to those yang belum pernah dengar, this is kind of like really interesting technology that is quite new yet in academic as well as in the food industry, right? So the development and the production of food with 3D technology, sorry, has potential to create and produce food in more advanced format that will be a new paradigm shift to the food industry. Why? Why in more advanced? I would say because this is the things that we fabricate. Fabricate maksudnya kita boleh design untuk kehendak kita sendiri, right? Dengan format yang lebih baru. Kalau kita lihat berbanding dengan molding technique, right? So molding technique is much more straightforward, where we have pre-made mold, for whatever shape it is, and we just pour, let's say, chocolate, right? We just pour top inside the mold, and then it is molded as it is. But however, using this technology, we can actually modify not only the textures, but as well as the shape as well. Now, currently, this technology is moving to the next phase, which is personalized food. What do I mean by personalized food here is it's really accustomed to us. Like, for example, I like the food to be less hard and have interesting shape. Shape yang cantik tapi dia kurang keras untuk dimakan, right? So I can do that with this technology, which is with combination of two vital things. Which is a personalized recipe. Okay, personalized recipe means setiap individu or person will have their own specification for recipe. Let's say I want this more fat, or people like want to add more sweet in it. So that's depend on the preferences, I would say. But in terms of health, we can also modify that to adjust our nutritional requirement, as well as the creating textures. Now, this is very interesting in 3D printing because textures is pretty much one of the component that we will look into when we taste food. Okay? So when we want to taste food, not only it should be look good, tastes good, but also feels good when we consume it. So we can do most of these things with 3D technology. The photo that I showed you in the slide, which is from the 3D system source. So this is actually the 3D printed chocolate, as well as 3D printed pizza. Right, this is the source from NASA. So technically, um, a little bit of flashback. Um, Actually, NASA initiate this kind of project with one of the academic institution where they actually want to bring food to the space. So how would they bring food to the space without carrying actual food? Because as we all know, spaceship is much more limited in space. So if let's say they want to go for like 3 months durations for this for their journey, or 6 months, or how long they will be in space, so technically they need to bring most of the supply there. They need to bring a lot of supply. So they want to reduce the supply, but without sacrificing, like the food that they love. So they actually funded a project to one of these institutions in America to do this, to come up with a solution that they can bring food to the space. So one of the solution was to look into the possibility of printing food, right? I believe you guys have looked into, if you guys are a fan of the Star Wars or Star Trek. I believe there is like one of the scene that they press something from the machine and then the food came out just like this. So that's kind of the inspiration out of it. All right. So the current type of material for 3D and 4D printing. So I'll show you guys some food, as well as some other material that is not food, which is the metallic material, the polymer material, which is mostly as we know as plastic, like nylon, ABS, polycarbonate, which is much more durable for other purposes. Now we can print as well as ceramic materials. However, each kind of material requires different type of 3D printing because of the substrate or the material itself. So different material has its own unique features and require unique technique for printing. That's include food, right? So we will focus on food today. Um, so right, so if you look into the image that I've showed you, this is the work of one of my friend when we were studying in Australia. So she did her study or research for meat. So this is actual meat, and then we printed it, right? So with some modification in terms of formulation, but it turns out that the textures came out similar to what of the original meat that we purchased from the market. Right? So other than that, we also can print sugar-based food, chocolates, um, fruits, vegetables, snacks, gels, and currently edible insects, serangga as well, right? So quite interesting and very unique because studies show that edible insects contain more protein than that of meat product itself, which is quite interesting. Bird nests, right? So sarang burung walit, and then also plant protein to those that are really going for fitness or looking into the other options of protein other from meat, especially those who opt for vegetarian, right? So there is one study currently in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, looking into the possibility of 4D printing of soy-based protein, soy protein isolate, mistaken, and it turns out that really good. Um, it's quite interesting that what this technology can do for our food, and it's quite futuristic as well. Okay. All right. So we'll look into how does 3D or 4D printing works. So as we all know, it is kind of like layer by layer building process. So slowly, surely, it will create a dimensions based on the design that we like. Okay, so the higher it is, so the more prominent the dimension of it. So it started with designing the design. So of course we need to have a 3D software, any kind of 3D software that is available that we are easy for us um, to do the design. Right. So using the 3D design software, we design the custom shape that we want, and then after that we transfer the design into the file that is transferable to the 3D printer, which is the STL file. Okay, but don't worry, because currently most of the printer that is available now in the market, 3D food printer, came with this extraction, this STL file reader that is much more advanced as compared to 2015. So it's much more for us to extract the file out of it. And then after we extract the file, the STL file, after we like, okay, I satisfied with the design, or I really like this design. Okay, whatever it is, it's either a heart shape, a rabbit shape, a Mickey Mouse shape, or your own name, actually. So once you satisfied with that, and then extract the STL file from the software, and then we transfer it into the slicer utility to generate the G code. The only code that the 3D printer can um, read, I would say, is the G code generator. So this is also available nowadays. Um, we just follow the instructions of any kind of the slicer. I believe that there is a few slicer that are available for to generate the G code. So we use that, and then we transfer that G code into the printer. Nowadays, printer are really much more advanced, like I said. So some printer have their own interface that we can just click. We just a single click using the touchscreen, or we can use as well from our phone to connect with the 3D printer, and then that's it. So we start printing. So this is actually an actual chocolate that is printed. And so if you guys can see, it is similar to what the design is from the design, and then uh, the 3D printed product, right? So I designed this chocolate, right? So chocolate is technically a chocolate in color. So I designed chocolate. We can actually change the color. We cannot change the color of the material, I would say, because we are using original chocolate that is brown in color. So I just use the color here in the design to match, to look if it is matched to the end product. So it turns out it is matched the end product, so which is good. So actually this technology could produce a similar product as to what a precise product actually that as to what we have designed in this from the software, right? But quite fascinating actually. Now we look into, so this is actually the current technology of the 3D food printing that available. I would say currently have four using laser, hot air, liquid, as well as the extrusion method. So in food industry, to print food, the most appropriate technique would be the extrusion method. So I will discuss with you guys later. So this is the liquid binding as well as the laser. So they use a similar kind of band where only powder-based product can be used for this kind of method. Okay, so the heat source or the liquid binder is directed on point to determine the 3D model, okay, in the dashed line. So the powder bed is lowered by 1 layer of thickness every time the sintering finish. And this is going to be repeatedly until the desired design is completed, right? So if you guys can see on the bottom, so that's the end products, the illustration product. So if you guys can see here, actually, um, on the right side, the sugar candies from the 3D system, the colored one, and then the one that is really quite uh, intricate design. Also from the 3D system, as you guys can see, it's quite intricate of the design, so that is based from the laser sintering. But the drawback for this method, they only use heat source dan juga liquid binding. So technically for that, only material that is powdered can be used. So like powdered sugar or powdered material that is edible, right? So in terms of using fresh food, so the food has to undergo several process of drying as well as powdering. So to make it look into powder, but we're sacrificing a lot in terms of the nutritional content of the fresh fruit as well. So there is another method for that. Okay. Um, Okay, this is the hot air situation. So we use hot air for this. So we injected the hot air into the powdered material, mainly sugar powder. So similar, quite similar to the laser as well as the liquid binding. Um, this one using a hot air beam that is injected through the powder. The process is the same and go by layer as well, and then come up with the final product that is big broth. That the colloidal something sugar. That, but the shape is quite interesting. I have seen one of these before, and it's quite interesting. However, the textures, the appearances is quite hard, right? Because the direct heat from the hot acid rings is not that, because it is not that really straightforward. It is quite open, say. So the beam is quite strong. Therefore the surface of this product or the end product is slightly brown. But the objective was to create some sort of 3D dimension and its purpose as well. Right? Okay, so this is the step by step the sintering. So this is mostly will be used for sculpturing. Okay. Now, so this is the extrusion method that is much more user friendly, I would say, um, for food printing, especially for paste type of product. So kalau kita tengok dekat sini, yeah, we look into both. So this is actually two types of extrusion method. The first one is using alternating piston injection, macam let's say we use a syringe, right? So we push that. So that's similar method. The other one is for rotational method. So just like a screw, and then the material we put in, and then it will be based for rotational. So currently most of the 3D printer applying the alternative piston, okay, the syringe method, because it is much more easy to navigate. Because I have the experience to use both of these method. And personally, I would much more prefer to use this the automated piston as compared to the rotational method. Actually, both produces similar products, but in terms of usage and easy to deal with, as well as easy to prepare the material, um, the automated piston is much more easy to do, right? Now, so this is part of the example of the chocolate that is printed using the automated piston method or the syringe method, right? Or injection. Okay. We have sort of Mickey Mouse figure, and then a heart, and then a square with a hollow in the center, as well as the cylinder. So we can actually pretty much do many kind of possible things from this technology. So not only this, we can also print out any shape that we desire, as long as we know what sort of material that we are printing. Okay, in this case, I've printed chocolate, which is edible chocolate that you can see straight away after it's print, or um, this is interest much more interest to bakery or the shop owners that is personalized, that you want to create something that is much more unique for the business. Okay, so perhaps this technology is really going to make the game changer in terms of your business, because you guys can personalize products that is accustomed to the customer needs, that is also not available in the market. I'd say, of course, chocolate is available in the market, but to create the shapes as well as the textures, so we can use this technology. Okay, um, some other examples: 3D printed carrots, okay, printed chocolates, like the one that I showed you guys, printed pasta. So everything that you um, could imagine of from food, it is highly possible to use this technology to print. Okay, right. As well as pizza, shoe-shaped burger, a mini burger. Yes. So this technology is quite interesting. So pada siapa-siapa yang berminat to learn about this as well, um, it is quite an interesting technology to look into, because I don't think that in Malaysia we have explored it really much. Okay, so this is kind of like one of the interests for the food industry as well that we can introduce to. Okay, now, so some of the examples of 3D food printer that is available in the market. So the yellow one, which is from China, the Chan Proimi, Machine Tech for B, and then the Chop Edge Creator. So the A 3D printer are using the rotational method, but for B and C are using the syringe method. But for B, we have like a dual syringe, so we can print two material or two interchangeable material at the same time. But yeah, C, um, it is much more advanced, where we can use touchscreen to this. Okay, but there is also more 3D printer out there available in the market. If we want to see, most of them are like produced in China as well as from Europe. It is much more cost efficient nowadays, as compared to last time or 10 years ago. 5 years ago, these printers can cost more than 10,000 or even 20,000. Nowadays, we can just buy, like, there is some 3D printer that is less than 5,000 as well. All right. Now the parameter. So There is a questions that I receive most of the time, like is it easy to do 3D printing? Is it easy to do the 4D printing? How does it work? Right? So there is certain element in the 3D printing. Not to say that it is more towards science based, but the things that we have to know on how to produce the material, the ink, say for the printer. Okay, that is the infill, numbers of shells, layer heights, as well as temperature. So these are the four key elements in the parameters that we need to know. We need to set up. For example, each material, let's say chocolate, for instance. So we need to know uh, the melting point of chocolate before we want to print, right? So, however, um, because we all know if we have deal with chocolate before, kalau kita use chocolate in our cooking, right? To what extent that we have to melt the chocolate and then it's still like solid again, right? After we put back into the fridge. But if we introduce more heat towards the chocolate, let's say 40 degree or more than that, we actually destroyed all the crystal in the chocolate. Okay, so the crystal in the chocolate that is responsible for it to melt in room temperature, however, becomes solid in below room temperature. But however, if we destroy chocolate crystals, that's mean we cannot get the proper uh, material back. So we have to know a little bit of science about that. Then we go. So, however, the 3D printer now that available in the market, I would say they are much more came up with a proper guidelines to consumer, a proper manual, and they have tons of information that you can read into that manual, how to how to prepare the material, I would say, and then what temperature that is suitable for each type of material. So we need to look into that so that we are end up with a properly printed food. Okay, so infill, number of shells, so layer height as well as temperature. Out of these four, I think the most crucial parameters for printing is temperature. Okay, so some material ada yang temperature sensitive, which mean bila kita letak di room temperature, for example, dia akan cair. So that's temperature sensitive materials. So some materials are not that really temperature sensitive. So one of the example of temperature sensitive materials is like gel, like or jello, agar-agar, okay, jelly, chocolate is temperature sensitive, butter, cheese. Some cheese are also temperature sensitive. So we need to know that before we want to print. So of course, there is some modification in kita boleh buat that we can do to enhance the printing process as well. Okay. Now we look into the type of printable food material. Okay, so natively printable. Natively printable means the material or the food ingredients have the ability to become solid after it been melted. For example, in certain temperature. Okay, so for example, like cheese, chocolate, and gel. So, however, this is by careful monitoring of the temperature that we use to print, because we need temperature to make it flow well when we want to inject the material through the printer. Okay, but we also have the non-native printable. So non-native means something that is not, there is no changes in the formations of the material. For example, macam daging, meat, potato, fruits, vegetables, rice, especially insects, right? And then bird nest, etc. So these kind of material that we have to be more creative. So if we want to print strawberry, so we want to print strawberry to make it to be like cake or a pastry, I would say. So we need to enhance it by adding some hydrocolloid. So this hydrocolloid will help to bind the material very well, so it will still sustain the structure dia akan still sama bila kita print. Okay. So the current printable food material, I would say, insects. Some company in Europe are trying to look into the potential, the possibility of this technique or this technology with insects. Like if you guys are really keen to try 3D printed insects, okay, and also bird nests. So there is also highly possible possibility for this material to be printed as well for the bird nest. Okay, um, because as we all know, bird nests came naturally from bird. Okay, so in order for to get a really custom and um, standardized shape. So one of the way that we could do is by using this technology. Okay. So current alternative ingredients. So I mentioned this before. We use the insects. Other alternative ingredients are from algae, fungi, seaweed, okay, lupin, and insects are the novel sources for protein and fiber. So some researcher like Severini and colleagues have looked into this, and then there is a potential this material to be used by using 3D food printing, which is quite good because these insects is generally high in protein. So if you guys are keen to try that, right? It is interesting. It is interesting. I would say it is quite interesting and quite distinct taste. Okay. Now we look into like why we have to print food. So kenapa kita perlu print while we already have the natural food, right? So we can just eat fruits like apple, banana, just eat it straight away. But there is no actually challenges in terms of food. That is why we want to print it. And there is no drawback about what food the food is already good as it is, but why we want to print that. Okay, so we actually want to look into the customized food design. Right, so let's say we want the banana to be shaped like in star shapes or much more intricate shapes. So this technology could potentially offer more freedom to us as the end user to be more creative in terms of colors, flavors. Maybe we can combine print banana and a jelly together to create a layer by layer. That's also related to the texture modification. Okay, so when we modify the texture, it's kind of like provide a new sensation. Okay, so it is much more towards customized design. Okay, and then we look into some example. Okay, so this is much more chocolate. So like I said, we can design anything that we can possibly think of. This is actually a few of the design that I've made out of chocolate, which is the trial during my project. So if you all can see on the left hand side, on the right hand side of yours, um, it is all the rectangle shape, but we can modify the infill, the inner part of it, with a different kind of infill. we can do star infill, we can do zigzag infill, we can do a circular infill. So that kind of creates quite interesting movement inside of the products, and then perhaps the textures as well, right? And then this is like multiple layers of structures for conventional post processing, especially for customized in design, and then personalized nutrition. So this technology can enable a precise control of people's diet to ensure that fresh and healthy dishes exactly meet the needs for preferences of the individual. For example, um, we want to print chicken for dysphagia people that have swallowing problem, yang ada masalah untuk kunyah makanan dan dia tidak boleh kunyah makanan yang keras. So therefore, we can use this as a tool to personalize the nutrition. So we can actually personalize the recipe for this by and using this technology. So we can print um, because most people that have swallowing problem, they tend to puree everything. Everything have to be mashed. So appearance the appearance of it, it's not that really nice, I would say. So everything is like mesh and really lame kind of textures. So with this kind of technology, we can enhance the textures by printing it, and it has, not to say that similar sensation to what the chicken, um, the original chicken is. However, there is some sort of um, chewiness towards it. So instead of just swallowing straight from the mashed chicken, so we can still have the sensation to at least try to bite it, right? So people that have swallowing problem really appreciate this, so they can still feel, they still have the mouthfeel of chicken. So this is the one of the example that one of the nursing home in German that already done. So they implement using the 3D printing. So it's quite interesting shapes as well as enhance the textures to the nursing home people, especially the elderly, right? So we can also create innovative food product out of this. Okay, it is feasible to create one range of food items similar taste and shape using limited numbers of raw material or ingredient. We actually just can do with one materials plus with the enhancement, which is we add the hydrocolloid. And if we embedded this knowledge that we have, so actually we can apply this to other materials as well. So it's kind of um, innovative way to create food product. Okay, so in a way that not only tastes good, but looks good as well. Okay, incorporation of alternative ingredients. So if we want to cook insects, for example, so no one dares to try it, right? So if we like go out there in the market, di pasar malam kita goreng-goreng this kind of thing, so I don't think people will buy it. So however, with this kind of technology, um, people perception will change a little bit because we use like quite advanced technique plus the ingredients of the insects. Okay, so it's actually nice. I have the experience trying the insects powder when I was in India for a conference. So one of the scientists from, I can't remember the institution, so they actually brought up this flour that is made out of crickets, cengkerik. But this cengkerik is not the wild one, of course, the lab grown cengkerik. So they control the diet of these insects. So that's why it is like quite potentially high in source of protein. It is quite good. There is no smells at all from the flour, so it's quite interesting as well. modifications of the traditional recipe. Let's say we have here in Sabah, for instance, we have a lot, tons actually for traditional foods like kue panjaram, for example. So we can actually offer this technology instead of doing the conventional way. How about we try to impose the traditional recipe into a modern way, right? And by producing the similar products as to what the conventional products does. So this is the example um, from the Austria snacks recipe, okay, made of a turkey or scallop with celery by using transglutamase. So, siapa di sini tahu transglutamase itu apa? And comment in the chat box. Transglutamase. What is the transglutamase? So actually, if you guys are really hardcore or a die-hard fan of sausages, okay, so most producer use a little bit of transglutamate to glue it. They call it meat glue, so that the meat are bind together to create the sausage. Okay, um, this is the examples made from the traditional recipe. Okay, made of the turkey as well as the scallop. So it's quite the look is quite promising, I would say. Okay. The current status and the future prospects. So I've laid out here three um, users. Okay, so individuals, industrial scale, and the small scale. So we look into the individual user first. So it should be non-complex machine, creative design, and personalized nutrition. So we have already this sort of technology or this machine available in the market now. Okay, and for small scale, so artistic design, especially for those who are in business that want to look into more unique and more feature design for their products, can use this. Can lead to profit oriented as well. Um, so for industrial scale, so economies of scale is really important. So how does this technology can help the food industry to create or to produce more product in a very short time, novel product, okay, and then of course it's going to generate profit for them as well, okay. Currently, 2020 and beyond, we want to look into fully personalizations and more towards individuals' preference. Now, just instead of creating the shaping, personalized recipe, textures, we are moved beyond that. So we want to go for personal preference nowadays. So people can use this technology to their to create their own personal personalization in recipe, especially in the nutritional content. So currently, um, we are relying heavily on social medias now because as we all know, or as the audience are know now, everyone have their own social media account, right? Whether it is a Facebook, they call it Meta now, else? Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, social media now is the key to disseminate awareness to customer. So we can use this, right? So also from the reputable sources and as well as the actual display of the 3D printed food as well. So we did experiment before and then display this in the public. Um, there is some people still. This is back in 2019, so there is some still quite not unsure about this technology because they think that 3D printing is quite um, taboo, I would say. So why do you want to print food when you can consume it directly? Some consider it food safety, but most people are really keen to try the printed product because they think that this is quite a new experience to them. And then the product is similar to what that available in the market, but much more better in terms of appearances and textures. So this can be done to increase the consumer awareness, especially now in Malaysia. We don't have this technology yet. There is some, but it is not that really well published yet in Malaysia. But we want to increase the awareness of more people that should know about this technology. All right, so finally, okay, so I would say this technology is a powerful tool. Okay, it's to create a personalized by depositing nutrients into the food. We can by using a personalized recipe to that, and this is promising, but customers may need to be educated about this potential as well as the possibility to counteract with the perception that is food processed to this degree may not be particularly nutritious. So there is still a challenge to educate the consumers nowadays. But however, in terms of creating a design and become more innovative with this technology, um, it's already been proven, I would say, telah dibuktikan dan boleh diaplikasikan. Okay. With that, I would like to end my sharing session, but now I'm open for Q&A sessions if there's any. So I give back to the moderator.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sylvester. It was a very interesting and wonderful topic and very well presented as well as its relevance for food technology as well. We invite some questions to be answered by our speaker. There's question. We wait for the question, okay? If there's other question.
Yeah, so if the audience out there that have any questions, okay, so if you guys want to ask in bahasa pun boleh sebenarnya, about this technology, how that does it can be applied to certain people, okay, so jangan malu-malu, boleh terus bertanya. And I don't think you guys can unmute, right? So perhaps if it is possible to write in the chat box, I think, and perhaps our friends moderator can read that on behalf of you so that we can answer that.
Okay, so we have question from Koko. Hi dokter, bagaimana dengan tarik luput 3D food printing? Adakah lebih lama atau bagaimana?
Okay, soalan yang bagus. Tarik luput untuk makanan 3D food printing. Sebenarnya untuk makanan yang dihasilkan daripada 3D teknologi ini sepatutnya dimakan secara terus, okay? Sebab kita menggunakan bahan-bahan yang fresh, okay? We use a fresh material. However, if we use contoh lah macam chocolate, right? Kalau kita guna coklat untuk print, so it can be kept for quite some times, but not too long, macam 1 bulan, 2 bulan begitulah. So it is best to consume this food immediately or after cooking. Some food yang kita print kan, contohlah macam daging, kita print daging. So technically kita kena masak dulu daging itu or bake or bakar that we consume, right? That is out of the fresh food. Tapi kalau macam manisan, chocolate atau jelly, yes, we can keep that under refrigeration temperature. Okay, tapi untuk dalam tempoh masa yang lama belum ada lagi.
Okay. Okay, so there is other question? No?
Siapa yang tanya soalan tadi ya?
From Kokong. Okay, Kokong.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sylvester, for answering the audience question. If there's no question anymore, so we will end the question A session. Oh, ada lagi soalan.
Okay.
Good afternoon, doctor. From a consumer POV, will 3D printer food product be more expensive than their conventional counterpart? For example, like chocolate-based product.
Can you please read the question again?
Okay. From a consumer POV, will 3D printed food product be more expensive than their conventional counterpart? For example, like chocolate-based product.
Okay, so what an interesting question actually. So from the consumer point of view, 3D printed product will be more expensive than the conventional counterparts. So I would say still if let's say in the Malaysian setting kan, so if let's say we produce that in Malaysia, so it will still be, I would say still be expensive because of the printer is quite um, expensive as well, and then in terms of business, so people will sell it a bit more. So that is why it is slightly expensive if we talk about business. Okay, but if we want to use this technology as part of our daily life, we need that to produce our own food. That is much more efficient, let's say, in terms of food preparation. However, in terms of business, I would say it is quite still expensive for that as well. Still have the price for that. Um, However, if we move towards like using this kind of technology and then it become a norm to us to use that, so it will be much more cost efficient in the near future. Like contohnya kita guna technology, macam microwave technology, right? So to heat food, for example. So it is tend to be less expensive now because many people are using that. However, um, if let's say we want to compare 3D printed chocolate that produced by such and such business as compared to the one that we store bought, like we bought it from the supermarket, I would say it's still be expensive for the 3D printed products. Okay. All right. So another thing is another questions. Thank you so much. Um, do you think in the future a lot more people will use 3D printer? I would say I think so. People will use 3D printer because the feedback that I've read from the journals. Okay, so from the customer point of view as well, there is some scientists or some researcher that do conduct this similar study, asking people preferences, what they think about this technology, will they use it, will actually they buy this machine. Um, I would say yes. In the future, I think more people will use this 3D printer if this 3D printer will become their new normal. Like you know, um, people are using it like quite often, maybe in the future. Who knows? Okay, bagaimana perkembangan 3D printing di Malaysia? Adakah semakin popular digunakan pakai oleh certain industry? Okay, thank you so much for the question. Perkembangan 3D printing di Malaysia masih kurang lagi mendapat sambutan, tetapi ada beberapa industri, macam saya cakap tadi lah, birdnest industry menggunakan mula menggunakan teknik ini, teknik percetakan secara 3 dimensi, sebab potensinya untuk membuatkan the shape look standardized, right? So as you all know, bird nest kan one of the expensive items, expensive materials. So in order for them to slightly reduce the price a bit for this kind of material, they opt for 3D printing, which is possible in Malaysia. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for the question. It's really kind of like interesting because
Okay, doctor. We had a last question. Okay, last question.
okay.
Okay. Hi, doctor. Will this technology overcome the problem of food inflation? From Loh Chiu Mei.
All right. So thank you so much, Chimei. Food inflation. I think, in my opinion, so this technology is something that could help in terms of innovative products, or perhaps in producing more customized design. But in terms of the one that you said, food, apa tadi soalannya tadi itu? Food.
Overcome the problem of food inflation.
Yes, food inflations. Sorry, to overcome the food inflations. I would say this is much more towards related to the produce itself. I mean, like the source of raw material. So this technology is actually using supply from the source of the food. Okay, so we need some kind of material to use it. However, there is a potential of using waste product to it. So technically, it could reduce, but not significantly, the food inflation.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sylvester, for answering the
Thank you
audience
so much.
question. We hope the audience enjoy this amazing and interesting presentation by our wonderful speaker. The link for registration and e-certificate is now being shared for school student and UMS student. Please fill in your details and answer the simple feedback questionnaire. All students will receive a e-certificate while SDP point will be given to UMS student only. Okay, thank you again to Dr. Sylvester for the time to
Thank you
share
so
with
much
us.
for having me.
Welcome,
Really
and
appreciate it.
thank you also to all the audience for your participation. We look forward to seeing you in the next STEM speaker series scheduled on 26 April 2022 at 2:30 p.m. with the topic entitled Augmented Reality and Smart Agriculture. It was a pleasure to have all you with us. With this, we conclude our webinar. Thank you for the cooperation and see you again.
All right, thank you, Dokter. Thank you, kita punya
Thank you
moderator
so
juga.
much. Sudah tidak live, kan? Okay.
All right, thank you, thank you. Boleh sudah?
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.